10 mind-blowing brain training hacks for success. Let me get straight to it. Your brain is the single most powerful wealth-building tool you will ever own. Not your job, not your degree, not your background, your brain. And yet, most people use it like an outdated computer running on the slowest possible settings. They don't train it, they don't stretch it, they don't upgrade it. And then they wonder why success feels hard, inconsistent, or completely out of reach. But here's the truth that almost nobody hears early enough. Success is not an accident, prosperity is not luck, and abundance is not reserved for a chosen few. They are simply consequences of a trained mind. And today, you and I are going to unlock 10 of the most mind-blowing brain training hacks ever created for success, wealth, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. These hacks have shaped millionaires, CEOs, creators, athletes, visionary leaders, and modern thinkers who turned their minds into prosperity-generating machines. People like Elon Musk, who trained his brain to think in first principles. Warren Buffett, who strengthened his mental focus through deliberate isolation and deep thinking. Oprah Winfrey, who rewired her internal dialogue through gratitude and intention. And companies like Google, Apple, and Tesla, which train their teams' minds as intentionally as they develop their products. Imagine applying just a fraction of these techniques to your own life. Imagine your mind becoming sharper, calmer, more strategic, more confident, more abundant. Imagine waking up tomorrow already feeling different, more capable, more aligned, more powerful, because you finally learned how to train your brain like successful people do every single day. That's what this video is about. Direct, transformational, no fluff, no filler, just the tools that actually change lives. Let's begin. Topic 1. The focus expansion. Hack how to train your mind to lock onto success like a guided missile. Let's start with something bold and brutally true. Your level of success in life is determined more than anything else by what your mind is capable of focusing on and sustaining. Not your talent, not your education, not your luck. Focus. The most underestimated, underdeveloped mental power that every millionaire, high performer, visionary, and creator has learned to master, sometimes consciously, sometimes by necessity. Focus is the gateway to wealth, the foundation of strategy, and the doorway through which every great idea must pass before it becomes real. And yet, most people go through life with their minds pulled in 100 different directions, never realizing that every distraction chips away at their destiny, every interruption dilutes their potential, and every moment of mental scattering pushes success a little further away. Imagine your mind as a guided missile programmed toward your highest goals. If the target is unclear, the missile drifts. If the signal weakens, the missile slows. If interference floods the system, the missile spins in circles. But when the target is locked, when the path is clear, when the system is strong, the missile becomes unstoppable. That is what the focus expansion hack trains your brain to do. It teaches your mind to lock onto success with such sharpness, such precision, such unwavering energy that your goals begin to feel magnetic, inevitable, impossible to ignore. Think about Elon Musk sitting alone, breaking down problems into first principles, shutting out noise, conversation, and comfort so he can see what others miss. Think about Jeff Bezos carving out cognitive prime time for deep work, refusing meetings, calls, or interruptions because he knows that protecting his mind is protecting Amazon's future. Think about Oprah Winfrey, who attributes her empire to the mental discipline of clarity, intention, and emotional focus. These people didn't accidentally stumble into greatness. They trained their minds to hold vision when others crumble. They built neural pathways that favor concentration, discipline, big-picture thinking, and long-term prosperity. Your brain is not fixed. It rewires itself constantly, and whether you realize it or not, you are already training it every day. Every time you multitask, you weaken your concentration muscles. Every time you scroll without intention, you teach your brain to crave instant gratification. Every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce mental fragility. But the moment you begin to reverse this pattern, the moment you choose to take control of your attention, your brain responds rapidly. Neuroplasticity doesn't care about your past. It only cares about your repetition. What you repeat, your brain becomes. What you focus on, your life expands toward. Picture this. Tomorrow morning, before the world demands your attention, before notifications fight for your energy, Before responsibilities scatter your mind, you choose one clear goal, one mission, one task that moves your life forward, and you give it 30 minutes of uninterrupted, intentional, emotionally charged focus. Something extraordinary happens. Your brain begins to strengthen pathways associated with discipline, clarity, and execution. Your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your mind, becomes more active, more capable, more resilient. You start noticing how much faster you think, how much deeper you analyze, how much calmer you feel when pressure rises. It's not magic, it's training. This is why elite performers often seem superhuman. They're not. They simply have a mind that can stay with a thought long enough for it to turn into results. They follow through when others give up. They hold vision when others lose faith. They stay committed when everyone else gets pulled into the noise of the world. The wealthiest individuals understand something that most people overlook. Success is not a battle of intelligence, it's a battle of attention. If you can control where your mind goes, you can control where your life goes. Companies know this too. At Apple, meetings are designed to be laser-focused, with one person accountable for each task. At Tesla, engineers are given large blocks of uninterrupted time because innovation demands depth, not scattering. At Google, employees are encouraged to protect deep work periods because creativity emerges from a mind free from chaos. These environments don't happen by accident. They are built to train the collective brain of the organization to focus on solving important problems, not drowning in endless distractions. Now imagine what could happen if you created this environment inside your own life. Think of where you would be in 3 months, 6 months, or even a year if your mind became sharper, more stable, more determined, more intentional. Imagine waking up with mental clarity that slices through confusion like a blade. Imagine being able to sit down and instantly shift into productive flow instead of wrestling with procrastination. Imagine feeling your goals becoming real, not because you got lucky, but because you finally aligned your brain with your destiny. There's also a deeper, almost spiritual dimension to focus that people rarely talk about openly. When your mind holds a vision with intensity and emotion, you activate both neurological and vibrational alignment. Your brain begins filtering information that supports your goal. Your subconscious begins reorganizing beliefs and habits to match your future. Your intuition sharpens. Your creativity expands. You start experiencing synchronicities, the right people, opportunities, ideas, and resources showing up exactly when needed. Not because the universe suddenly favored you, but because you finally tuned your internal frequency to the reality you want to attract. When your focus expands, your world expands. When your focus weakens, your world shrinks. This is not metaphorical. It is psychological, neurological, and experiential truth. Millionaires don't chase more. They eliminate more. They don't complicate their minds. They refine their minds. They don't allow everything in. They decide what deserves entry. You become wealthy the moment your mind becomes wealth-ready. You become successful the moment your mind becomes success-trained. And you begin transforming your entire life the moment you realize that focus is not just a habit. It is a doorway to every dream you've ever had. This is the focus expansion hack, the foundation upon which the next 9 brain training techniques will build. And once you master this, you will never think in the same scattered way again. Topic 2. The Identity Recode Technique. Rewiring your self-image for automatic success. If there is one thing that silently governs every decision you make, every risk you take, every dream you pursue, and every limit you unconsciously obey, it is the identity you hold within your mind. People think they fail because of lack of resources, lack of time, lack of knowledge, lack of opportunity. But most of the time, the real problem is none of that. The real problem is identity conflict. Deep down, their self-image is not aligned with the level of success they want to achieve. They're trying to build a millionaire life with the identity of someone who doubts their abilities, questions their worth, and still carries the emotional signatures of past failures. The mind cannot consistently produce results that contradict its internal self-definition. This is why training your identity is one of the most powerful brain hacks ever discovered. Think about the world's most successful people. Before they built empires, they built identities. Oprah wasn't born with the identity of a global icon. She shaped it through intention, resilience, and unshakable belief. Jim Carrey, long before becoming one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors, used visualization not just to imagine his future success, but to embody the identity of a successful actor who deserved a multi-million-dollar paycheck. A vision so vivid that he famously wrote himself a check for $10 million and dated it years into the future. This wasn't fantasy, it was identity conditioning. He was training his mind to accept a higher version of himself long before the world saw that version. Identity is the thermostat of your life. No matter how high you try to push your results, your identity will pull you back to the level you believe you belong to. If someone has a struggling identity, they will sabotage opportunities, shrink from challenges, undervalue themselves, and unconsciously recreate familiar patterns of scarcity. But when someone adopts a success identity, their brain starts making decisions that align with confidence, clarity, abundance, and forward movement. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, but the moment you begin rewriting your identity, everything else in your life begins to shift. Your habits, your relationships, your financial decisions, your emotional resilience, your ability to take risks, and your tolerance for discomfort. This is where the identity recode technique becomes revolutionary. It teaches you to upgrade your internal operating system the same way you would upgrade outdated software. The brain responds to repetition, emotion, and imagery, and identity is built from these three elements. Every time you tell yourself who you are, every time you visualize your future self, every time you act in alignment with the identity you want to create, you carve new neural pathways. You begin to replace the old beliefs stored from childhood, past failures, trauma, or cultural conditioning. These old beliefs were never truth. They were simply repeated long enough to feel true. But your brain is plastic. It changes, it adapts, it rebuilds itself. It is never too late to create a new identity that matches the life you truly desire. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not to observe your physical reflection, but to observe the mental reflection of who you believe you are. Do you see someone powerful? Someone capable? Someone destined for prosperity? Or do you see someone hesitant, overwhelmed, uncertain, or defined by yesterday's mistakes? Identity work asks a simple question: who do you want to become? And what would that version of you think, feel, decide, tolerate, and create? The moment you answer that question honestly, your brain receives a new blueprint. And the moment you begin to live in alignment with that blueprint, your outer world begins to shift as your inner world evolves. Think about Warren Buffett. He built his identity around being an investor long before he became wealthy. He saw himself as someone who made rational, patient, long-term decisions, and because that identity was strong, every action he took reinforced it. Or think of companies like Amazon or Nike, whose identities are so powerful and so clearly defined that their entire cultures operate from them. These companies don't just sell products, they embody a narrative, a mindset, a belief system. Their success is not separate from their identity. It is a direct result of it. When you recode your identity, you begin to make decisions that match the future you want instead of the past you've lived. Suddenly, you don't procrastinate as much because your new identity sees procrastination as beneath you. You don't tolerate toxic relationships because your identity now demands environments that support growth. You don't hesitate to invest in yourself because the version of you who succeeds knows that growth is non-negotiable. You don't collapse under pressure because your identity is rooted in resilience. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently, and slowly, the world begins to respond differently to you. This transformation is emotional, psychological, and neurological, and it often begins with a moment of truth. The moment you look at your life and think, "This is not the life I'm meant for. I am capable of more." Once that awareness surfaces, the brain becomes ready to accept a new identity. You begin feeding it new beliefs, new possibilities, new standards. The repetition of these thoughts strengthens them. The emotion behind them anchors them. The visualization of them programs them. Eventually, your brain reaches a tipping point where the new identity becomes stronger than the old one, and that is when breakthroughs happen. Imagine waking up with the identity of someone who trusts themselves deeply, someone who sees abundance as normal, someone who recognizes opportunities instantly, someone who handles setbacks with calm determination, someone who believes that success is inevitable. With that identity, your mind stops working against you and starts working with you. You stop fighting internal battles and start directing your energy toward creation, growth, and expansion. You begin living as the person you used to only dream about. This is the power of the identity recode technique. It aligns your self-image with your future success so strongly that achieving your goals becomes a natural byproduct of who you are rather than a desperate effort to escape who you used to be. Success becomes self-sustaining. Prosperity becomes self-reinforcing. Abundance becomes self-confirming. When you recode your identity, you don't just change your mind, you change your destiny. Topic 3. The neuropriming loop. Programming your brain for daily success. Before the world interferes, there is a small window in your day when your brain is wide open, unguarded, impressionable, and ready to absorb whatever you feed it. And the surprising truth is that this window determines more of your success than almost any habit you develop. It's the first few minutes after you wake up. Your mind is still transitioning between subconscious and conscious states, still floating in that delicate space where thoughts become beliefs, beliefs become patterns, and patterns become your life. Most people waste this window by grabbing their phone, checking notifications, scrolling through other people's lives, and exposing their mind to randomness, chaos, and emotional noise before they even understand how they feel. But the people who understand the neuropriming loop use this window like a golden portal, programming their brain deliberately to expect success, to search for opportunities, and to respond to challenges with calm, clarity, and power. This is not just psychology, it is neurobiology. The brain is highly plastic in the first moments of the day. Your neural pathways are more malleable, your emotional state is more fluid, and the direction of your attention is more easily shaped. Whatever you focus on during this window becomes the foundation upon which the rest of your day is built. And the people who succeed at the highest levels know this. They do not give their first thoughts away cheaply. They protect this moment like a sacred ritual. They use it to anchor their identity, align with their vision, and ignite the neural circuits responsible for motivation, confidence, decision-making, and emotional resilience. Think of Steve Jobs and his famous question every morning. If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do? It wasn't just philosophical, it was a neurological pattern interrupter. It forced his brain to evaluate his actions through meaning rather than obligation. Or take Tony Robbins, who created an entire morning ritual structured around breath, gratitude, visualization, and emotional priming. He knew that if he could control his mind in the morning, he could control his results for the rest of the day. Millionaires, top athletes, and elite performers across industries share the same secret. They begin the day by telling their brain what kind of life they expect to experience. When you intentionally prime your mind with success-focused thoughts, images, and emotions, your brain begins scanning your environment for confirmations. The reticular activating system, a tiny network of nerves that filters reality, becomes tuned to the frequency of opportunity. Suddenly you notice ideas, people, and possibilities that were always there but invisible to an untrained mind. You feel more capable because your mind is calibrated to capability. You make better decisions because your brain is in solution mode rather than stress mode. You react with confidence instead of fear because your emotional circuits were prepared for expansion rather than contraction. Imagine waking up tomorrow and spending the first minutes of your day feeding your brain with images of the future you want, not the problems you fear. Imagine breathing deeply, grounding yourself in your body, and telling your mind, "Today, I rise. Today, I build. Today, I expand." Picture your goals vividly, feel them emotionally, embody them mentally. In those moments, your brain begins constructing the identity and emotional state that will guide your behavior for the next 12 hours. This isn't fantasy, it's training. And the brain loves to follow the path it was shown first. This is why many wealthy individuals report that opportunities seem to find them. It's not luck, it's neurological alignment. When your brain begins the day in a success-oriented state, you naturally behave in ways that attract success. You speak differently, you negotiate differently, you solve problems with a different energy. You are less reactive, more intentional, more strategically aware. Even your body language shifts, your presence changes. People respond to you differently because your internal state is projecting confidence, clarity, and direction. Companies use a version of the neuropriming loop as well. Inside Google, Teams often start meetings with moments dedicated to alignment or clarity before diving into data and decisions. They know that unprimed minds spiral into confusion, whereas primed minds move into creation. Top CEOs often spend their first hour reading strategic material, journaling, visualizing outcomes, or reviewing quarterly visions. They're not wasting time. They are activating the neural pathways required to lead from a position of strength. Now think about how most people start their mornings, with anxiety, rushing, reacting, scrolling, comparing, worrying, or reliving old problems. Their brain becomes primed for stress before they even drink water. Their body elevates cortisol. Their thoughts become fragmented. Their emotional center becomes hypersensitive. And from that point on, everything feels harder. Not because life is harder, but because the brain was programmed for tension instead of expansion. What if you shifted this entirely? What if, from now on, the first voice your brain hears is your own, confident, powerful, aligned? What if the first images you feed your mind are visions of wealth, joy, purpose, and growth? What if the first thoughts you choose set the tone for clarity, abundance, and strategic action? You would start living your day instead of surviving your day. You would become the creator instead of the reactor. And your results would begin reflecting that shift almost immediately. Imagine spending a full week doing this intentionally. Every morning beginning with gratitude to open your emotional circuits, visualization to activate your prefrontal cortex, intention setting to guide your decisions, and positive self-identity repetition to reinforce your internal blueprint. The changes would be undeniable. More energy, better focus, heightened creativity, elevated confidence, reduced fear, deeper clarity, and a sense of forward momentum that becomes addictive. This is the neuropriming loop, a deliberate, daily rewiring of your mind before the world has a chance to shape your thoughts for you. Once you learn to master this window, you stop living on autopilot and begin living deliberately. Your brain becomes a partner in success rather than a prisoner of habit. You wake up already winning because you've trained your mind to expect victory, growth, and opportunity before anything else can interfere. Topic 4. The cognitive momentum. Principle: building unstoppable mental velocity toward your goals. There is a hidden force inside your mind that determines whether you move toward your goals with ease or whether everything feels like a constant uphill battle. It's not motivation, it's not discipline, it's not even confidence, at least not at first. It is momentum. Cognitive momentum. The invisible acceleration your brain builds when you take small, consistent actions that align with your purpose. And while most people assume that success requires gigantic leaps, dramatic breakthroughs, or sudden strokes of inspiration, the truth is that the most successful people in the world achieve extraordinary results because they master the art of creating tiny wins that compound into unstoppable velocity. Your brain is wired to follow whatever pattern you feed it. If you start your day accomplishing small, meaningful actions, your mind shifts into a state of progress. It begins releasing dopamine, the neurotransmitter of motivation, confidence, and engagement. Once dopamine rises, the brain wants to continue the pattern. It wants another win, then another, and then another. Before long, you feel like you're in flow, moving forward naturally, effortlessly, almost as if success is carrying you rather than you carrying success. This is cognitive momentum in action. The brain learns that progress is pleasurable, achievable, familiar, and therefore it keeps pushing you toward more of it. But the reverse is also true. When the first part of your day is filled with avoidance, hesitation, or overwhelm, your brain associates inaction with safety. It shuts down your internal drive. It lowers your confidence. It reduces your creative thinking. It quietly whispers, "Stay still. Don't move. Don't risk." And from that point on, the entire day feels heavier. Not because your goals changed, but because your brain was never given the spark to ignite momentum. Top performers understand this instinctively. They don't wait for motivation to begin. They begin so that motivation appears. They know that the hardest part of any task is not the task itself. It is the psychological friction before starting. Once they break that friction, their brain accelerates. That's why highly successful entrepreneurs like Richard Branson, Sarah Blakely, and Elon Musk often emphasize the importance of building momentum early in the day. It's not discipline, it's neuroscience. The brain trusts action more than intention. When it sees action, it creates momentum. When it creates momentum, everything else becomes easier. Think of a rocket ship lifting off. In the first moments of launch, almost all the fuel is used just to break gravity. That is the hardest point. But once momentum takes over, the rocket moves with exponentially less effort. This is how your brain works. The beginning requires the most energy, but once movement starts, the energy multiplies. Suddenly, tasks that previously felt draining become manageable. Problems become puzzles instead of threats. Opportunities stand out clearly instead of blending into the noise. You become more decisive, more confident, more aware. Your brain enters a higher frequency of performance. This is why millionaires often repeat the phrase, "Success loves speed." It's not that they rush blindly, it's that they understand the psychology of forward motion. They know that hesitation kills dreams, delays erode clarity, and overthinking drains emotional energy. They prefer imperfect action over perfect stagnation. They understand the compound effect of daily wins. A small step taken today is not just a step, it is a signal to the brain. We are moving forward, and success is now the default direction. Neuroscience reinforces this. Once momentum is established, the prefrontal cortex, the decision-making center, becomes more active and efficient. You think clearer, plan smarter, and respond with more emotional intelligence. At the same time, the amygdala, the fear center, quiets down. Fear loses its influence, self-doubt weakens, resistance diminishes. Your brain becomes optimized for progress rather than protection. You begin to act like the person you want to become instead of the person you used to be. Companies use this principle too. Look at Amazon's obsession with bias for action. It's not just a corporate slogan, it's a cognitive philosophy. When employees take action quickly, they create momentum within teams, momentum within projects, momentum within the culture. Google's strategy of rapid prototyping follows the same rule. Small wins create bigger wins. Tesla's engineers iterate constantly, maintaining momentum instead of waiting for perfect conditions. Successful companies understand that momentum is not just progress. It is psychology, it is identity, it is culture. Now imagine what would happen if you built momentum intentionally every single day. Imagine waking up, accomplishing one small task that aligns with your future, and feeling your mind shift into that state of possibility and achievement. Imagine stacking these wins throughout the day. A decision made confidently, a problem solved creatively, a task completed successfully. Suddenly your goals don't feel impossible. They feel within reach. They feel natural. They feel like the next logical step in your progression. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to see patterns that were invisible before. You begin to feel like the kind of person who achieves things, not rarely, not occasionally, but consistently. And consistency is the real currency of success. Momentum does something else too, something most people underestimate. It rewires your emotional patterns. Every time you complete a task, even a small one, your brain reinforces the identity of someone who follows through. And when your identity strengthens, your behavior becomes more aligned. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop delaying your dreams. You stop feeling unworthy of your goals. You move forward with a sense of inevitability that other people can feel when they are around you. And here's the most beautiful part: momentum compounds. What feels difficult in the beginning becomes natural over time. What once required discipline becomes habit. What once required courage becomes comfort. What once felt impossible becomes your new baseline. You stop forcing success and start flowing into it. You begin living in a state of continuous expansion, where every day has purpose, every step has meaning, and every action builds towards something greater. This is the cognitive momentum principle. The brain's natural ability to create acceleration toward your dreams once you give it that first spark, that first step, that first moment of commitment. The moment you begin, the universe begins with you. The moment you move, your mind prepares the path. And once you build momentum, success is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you attract effortlessly. Topic 5. The emotional transmutation method, turning stress, fear, and pressure into fuel for success. There is a defining difference between people who rise under pressure and people who collapse under it. It has nothing to do with luck, privilege, or natural resilience. It has everything to do with what they do with their emotions. Most people treat negative emotions like enemies. Fear, stress, anxiety, uncertainty, frustration. They try to suppress them, avoid them, distract themselves from them, or pretend they don't exist. But the most successful individuals in history learned a completely different approach. They learned to transmute emotion. They learned to take the raw, chaotic energy of their inner world and convert it into clarity, courage, creativity, and action. They don't run from emotional intensity. They harness it. They transform it. They redirect it toward outcomes that serve their goals instead of sabotaging them. This is the emotional transmutation method, and once you understand how to use it, you stop fearing your emotions and start using them as fuel. Think about the stories behind the world's greatest successes. Oprah Winfrey turned childhood trauma into global influence. Howard Schultz transformed the pain of poverty and his father's struggles into the mission that built Starbucks. Sarah Blakely turned years of rejection and failure into the drive that created Spanx, making her one of the youngest self-made female billionaires in history. None of these people escaped emotional hardship. They simply learned to convert emotion into momentum. They understood that emotion is energy, and energy, when directed, becomes power. Your brain is constantly generating emotional signals based on your beliefs, your memories, your fears, and your expectations. But those signals are not instructions. They are invitations. When you feel fear before pursuing a big goal, it is not a sign you should stop. It is a sign that you are stepping into unfamiliar territory. When you feel stress while growing, it does not mean you are failing. It means your brain is stretching beyond old limitations. When you feel pressure because you want more out of life, it does not mean something is wrong. It means something is awakening. Most people misinterpret emotional energy and therefore never use it. But when you learn to reinterpret it, everything changes. Fear becomes a sign of expansion. Stress becomes a sign of progress. Pressure becomes a sign of potential. Suddenly, the emotions that once held you back become indicators that you are on the path to something greater. This is where the emotional transmutation method becomes transformative. Instead of reacting impulsively to emotion, you begin noticing it. You begin asking yourself questions like, what is this emotion trying to tell me? What fear is underneath it? What belief is it revealing? What action is it pushing me toward? You shift from being controlled by emotion to becoming the interpreter of it. And interpretation is everything. When you assign a different meaning to an emotion, your brain responds differently. Your physiology changes. Your decision-making changes. Your internal narrative changes. You stop treating emotion as a threat and start treating it as data. Data you can use to grow. Neuroscience supports this entirely. When you acknowledge an emotion consciously, you reduce amygdala activation, the brain's fear center. When you name the emotion and analyze it, the prefrontal cortex becomes more active, the part of the brain responsible for rational thinking, planning, and emotional regulation. This simple shift moves you from survival mode to creation mode, from panic to possibility, from avoidance to action. Imagine the difference this could make in your life. Imagine feeling fear before starting a business or pursuing a new opportunity, and instead of freezing, you say to yourself, "This fear means I'm moving towards something important." Imagine feeling stress, and instead of spiraling, you think, "This is my brain adapting to a higher level of responsibility." Imagine feeling pressure, and instead of shutting down, you remind yourself, "Pressure creates diamonds, and this is my moment of transformation." When you begin framing emotions through the lens of growth, they become catalysts instead of obstacles. The most successful leaders in business use this method constantly. Elon Musk has openly admitted that building SpaceX and Tesla came with enormous emotional strain, moments of deep fear, financial uncertainty, and overwhelming pressure. But instead of letting those emotions break him, he used them to sharpen his focus and strengthen his conviction. Jeff Bezos faced public criticism and business doubt for years, but he transmuted that tension into long-term strategy and innovation. Leaders in every major company face emotional challenges daily, yet their success comes not from avoiding emotion, but from converting it into clarity, direction, and persistence. Even athletes use emotional transmutation to perform under pressure. When Michael Jordan stepped onto the court during the NBA Finals, he wasn't free of nerves. He was fueled by them. He understood that pressure is simply energy waiting for direction. Serena Williams has spoken about transforming doubt into concentration and frustration into power. Emotion was never the enemy. Mismanagement of emotion was. Now, imagine applying this technique to your own life in a practical, daily way. Imagine waking up and recognizing that every emotion you feel is energy, and that you get to decide whether that energy pushes you forward or holds you back. Imagine transforming emotional heaviness into action, turning anxiety into preparation, turning frustration into creativity, turning fear into courage. You would no longer be emotionally reactive. You would be emotionally strategic. This is one of the most liberating discoveries you will ever make. Emotional energy is neutral until you give it meaning, and meaning determines direction. When you choose a meaning that serves you, your emotions become allies. They fuel your growth. They sharpen your intuition. They strengthen your resilience. They reveal your deepest desires and your most important lessons. They push you toward the person you are becoming. The emotional transmutation method gives you emotional sovereignty. It allows you to show up powerfully even when you don't feel powerful. It allows you to keep moving even when your past tries to pull you back. It allows you to use every internal wave as a source of momentum instead of chaos. And once you master it, success no longer depends on having perfect circumstances or perfect feelings. It flows from your ability to turn emotional intensity into unstoppable drive. Topic 6. The mental visualization engine, using future imagery to reshape your brain, behavior, and destiny. There is a hidden technology inside your mind capable of transforming your life faster than almost any external tool, strategy, or resource. It costs nothing. It is available 24 hours a day, and it has been used by millionaires, world-class performers, visionary leaders, and spiritual masters throughout history. This technology is mental visualization. Not the vague daydreaming most people casually practice, but a powerful, structured, emotionally charged engine that rewires the brain by allowing you to experience your future before it happens. When done correctly, visualization becomes one of the most potent forms of mental training, because the brain cannot fully distinguish between an event imagined with intensity and an event lived in physical reality. It reacts the same way. It builds the same neural pathways. It strengthens the same emotional circuits. It prepares you for the same behaviors. And when your brain becomes familiar with a future version of you, your life begins to align with that future automatically. Think of athletes like Michael Phelps, who visualized every race hundreds of times before he ever stepped into the pool. He didn't just imagine winning. He imagined the strokes, the breathing rhythm, the water temperature, the pressure, the mistakes, and even how he would recover if his goggles filled with water. When that exact moment happened during the Olympics, he won anyway because his brain had already experienced the scenario repeatedly. Elite performers use visualization not as fantasy, but as training. They know that a mentally rehearsed victory becomes a physically accessible one. But visualization goes far beyond sports. Jim Carrey visualized receiving a multi-million-dollar check long before he had any money. Oprah visualized her success long before any network knew her name. Entrepreneurs from Steve Jobs to Sarah Blakely have spoken openly about using future imagery as a tool to guide decisions, calm fears, and maintain alignment with long-term vision. Even Fortune 500 companies use visualization practices during innovation sessions because imagining a possibility makes it easier for the brain to recognize it in the real world. The mental visualization engine works by activating 3 regions of the brain simultaneously: the prefrontal cortex, which governs planning, the limbic system, which governs emotion, and the cerebellum, which governs muscle memory and execution. When these 3 systems fire together, an idea becomes more than a thought. It becomes an experience. And the more frequently the mind experiences a future reality, the more normal that future begins to feel. Suddenly, earning more money, having a fulfilling career, becoming a confident leader, attracting abundance, improving your relationships, or achieving a long-awaited dream stops feeling impossible and starts feeling familiar. Familiarity breeds action. Action breeds momentum. And momentum breeds the reality. This is why visualization becomes so transformative when paired with emotion. Emotion acts like a glue that binds the imagined experience to the brain. When you visualize with excitement, gratitude, confidence, or joy, your nervous system accepts the imagery as truth. Your subconscious begins adjusting your habits to match the future you feel emotionally connected to. You speak differently, walk differently, think differently. You begin aligning your behavior with the identity of the person you are becoming. And because your brain expects a certain future, it unconsciously guides you toward behaviors that fulfill that expectation. Visualization becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, not because of magic, but because of mental programming. Imagine yourself waking up each morning and spending a few minutes visualizing your ideal life, not as an abstract concept, but as a vivid, sensory-rich experience. Imagine seeing your future home, feeling the texture of the furniture, hearing the sounds of your environment, tasting your morning coffee, smelling the fresh air, all while embodying the calm confidence of your future self. Imagine visualizing success in your business or career with such detail that your brain believes it's already happening. Imagine connecting emotionally to the version of you who has financial stability, freedom, purpose, and joy. When you visualize consistently, you begin training your brain to expect this reality. And the brain always seeks to confirm what it expects. Neuroscientists call this expectancy theory. Psychologists call it cognitive priming. Spiritual teachers call it manifestation. CEOs call it strategic visioning. Millionaires call it thinking ahead. Regardless of the label, it is the same mechanism. The more you see your future, the easier it becomes to create it. But visualization also has a deeper purpose. It dissolves fear. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but when you visualize your future repeatedly, the unknown becomes known. Your brain stops treating your goals as threats and starts treating them as familiar territory. Your stress decreases, your courage increases. You begin taking steps that once terrified you because they no longer feel foreign. This is why many successful founders report that they always knew they would succeed. They didn't know through logic, they knew through mental repetition. Companies like Tesla, SpaceX, and Apple rely heavily on visualization during product development. They imagine the product before building it. They envision the experience before creating it. They design the future mentally before materializing it physically. When Elon Musk talks about making humanity multiplanetary, he is not describing a distant dream. He is describing a visualized future he has mentally rehearsed countless times. The brain of a visionary lives partly in the future, and this allows it to pull the future into the present. Now imagine applying this to your own life. Imagine spending time every day stepping into the mind, the body, and the emotional state of your future self. Imagine seeing yourself succeeding, solving problems, navigating challenges, celebrating victories, and living the life you are building. Imagine reinforcing this identity so strongly that you begin walking into opportunities with a sense of déjà vu, as if you've been there before, because mentally you have. Imagine feeling a confidence that does not come from evidence, but creates evidence. Visualization also reshapes your identity. When you repeatedly imagine yourself as someone powerful, successful, calm, abundant, and capable, your brain begins to dissolve the old identity, the one shaped by fear, doubt, or past limitations. Your subconscious begins to say, "This is who we are now." And once identity shifts, behavior follows naturally. You no longer force success, you embody it. This is the mental visualization engine, the internal technology that allows you to create your future mentally before creating it physically. When you see it clearly, feel it deeply, and repeat it consistently, the universe responds, your brain adapts, your energy aligns, and your actions become guided by purpose rather than fear. Your visualization becomes a blueprint the world begins to reflect. Topic 7. The Mental Detox Protocol: Clearing Cognitive Clutter to Unlock Peak Wealth Thinking. One of the greatest hidden barriers to success is not a lack of ambition, talent, or opportunity. It is cognitive overload, the mental clutter that builds up slowly, silently, and consistently until it becomes almost impossible to think clearly, make confident decisions, or sustain meaningful progress. Most people live with so much internal noise that they can't even recognize their own brilliance anymore. Their minds feel crowded with unfinished tasks, old fears, hidden doubts, external expectations, information overload, and emotional residue from every challenge they've ever faced. And they wonder why success feels heavy. But the reason is simple. A cluttered mind cannot create a wealthy life. A cluttered mind cannot innovate. A cluttered mind cannot lead. Just as you cannot fill a cup that is already overflowing, You cannot manifest abundance if your mental space is suffocating under the weight of cognitive chaos. This is why the mental detox protocol is so essential. It frees the mind so it can finally breathe, expand, and operate at peak performance. Think of your mind as a high-performance computer. Even the fastest machine slows down when too many tabs are open, too many files are running in the background, and too many notifications interrupt the system. The computer doesn't break, it just can't function at its highest capability. And if you reboot the system, close the unnecessary programs, clear the cache, and give it space, suddenly the speed returns. Your brain works the same way. The problem is that most people never reboot. They never clear their mental cache. They carry the weight of yesterday into today, the frustrations of last year into this year, and the disappointments of the past into the future. Without detoxing the mind, success feels like trying to sprint through water. The wealthiest and most successful people understand this intuitively. Warren Buffett famously keeps his schedule intentionally empty because space in the mind translates to clarity in decision-making. Steve Jobs practiced simplicity in every area of his life, not just in design, but in mental focus. Oprah speaks openly about clearing emotional and mental baggage so new blessings can enter. The reason these individuals operate at such high levels is not simply because they work hard, it's because they protect their mental space like a sacred resource. They know that a calm mind can solve complex problems, while a cluttered mind can barely solve simple ones. The mental detox protocol begins with a deep recognition. Not every thought belongs in your mind. Not every fear deserves your attention. Not every unresolved issue requires emotional investment. Most people live on mental autopilot, thinking the same thoughts day after day, recycling old narratives that no longer serve them, dwelling on situations that are already over, and anticipating problems that will never happen. This creates a cognitive environment of tension, stagnation, and fatigue. And in that mental environment, creativity dies, intuition fades, confidence weakens, and clarity disappears. Imagine what would happen if you released the thoughts that are draining you. Imagine letting go of the mental weight of past mistakes, failures, conflicts, and disappointments. Imagine clearing away the fears that whisper you're not enough. Imagine silencing the internal critic that interrupts your dreams. Imagine cleaning out the mental attic that has been storing old memories, old emotions, and old versions of you that no longer match who you are becoming. The moment you release that clutter, your mind expands. It becomes spacious, light, open, and capable of seeing possibilities that were invisible under the weight of noise. Neuroscience explains this perfectly. The brain has a limited amount of cognitive bandwidth. When too much of it is occupied by worry, stress, and unfinished mental loops, the prefrontal cortex, the center of planning, creativity, and strategic thinking, loses power. The amygdala, the fear center, becomes more active. This leads to overthinking, indecision, procrastination, and emotional exhaustion. But when cognitive load decreases, the brain's higher functions turn back on. You begin thinking like a leader, creating like an innovator, deciding like an entrepreneur. Mental detox is not a luxury. It is a neurological requirement for peak performance. Companies also understand the value of mental clarity. Google created 20% time not just for innovation, but to reduce cognitive load by giving employees mental space to explore ideas without pressure. Apple's minimalist design philosophy reflects the belief that simplicity creates clarity. Tesla maintains lean structures and rapid iteration to prevent mental stagnation within teams. Success-driven environments are designed to minimize clutter, so creativity and strategy can flourish. Now, imagine creating this environment inside your own mind. Imagine waking up and feeling mentally refreshed, not weighed down. Imagine making decisions without hesitation because your mind isn't juggling 1,000 other thoughts. Imagine accessing deeper levels of intuition because there is finally space for insight to appear. Imagine approaching your goals without the emotional heaviness that used to drain your momentum. This is what happens when the mind is detoxed. Your inner world becomes ordered, intentional, and aligned. The mental detox protocol is not about suppressing thoughts or pretending problems don't exist. It is about choosing which thoughts deserve your energy and which ones do not. It is about clearing the mental weeds so your potential can grow. It is about releasing mental habits that belong to a past version of you. It is about reclaiming your cognitive real estate so abundance can move in. When you detox your mind, stress loses its grip, overthinking quiets down, creativity awakens, focus sharpens, solutions appear effortlessly. Your emotional resilience strengthens. You become more present, more aware, more capable of seeing the bigger picture. And perhaps most importantly, you become receptive to wealth, not just financially, but intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. A detoxed mind becomes a magnet for clarity. Clarity becomes a magnet for opportunity. Opportunity becomes a magnet for success. And success becomes a magnet for even deeper levels of abundance. This is why people who clear their minds often experience breakthroughs that feel sudden, even though the breakthrough was simply waiting for space to enter. The mental detox protocol frees the mind from noise so your inner genius can finally speak. It releases the old so the new can emerge. It creates mental silence so intuition can guide you. And once you learn to clear your cognitive clutter with intention, you begin to operate from a higher mental frequency, one where success flows naturally because the mind is no longer drowning in unnecessary weight. Topic 8. The Habit Rewiring Matrix. Reshaping daily behavior to match the mindset of high achievers. If there is one truth that separates the people who talk about success from the people who actually live it, it's this: your habits will always reveal your destiny long before your results do. You can dream big, visualize, journal, read, pray, meditate, learn, and plan, but if your habits don't align with the future you want, your life cannot transform. The universe responds to identity, and identity expresses itself through repeated behavior. Most people fail not because they lack ambition, but because their habits belong to an older version of themselves, a version shaped by fear, scarcity, procrastination, or emotional limitations. They try to build a prosperous life while behaving like someone who expects mediocrity. And the brain cannot reconcile that contradiction. That is why the habit rewiring matrix becomes such a profound tool for success. It bridges the gap between who you are and who you are becoming by training your brain to act in alignment with your highest self every single day. Habits are not just actions. They are grooves in the brain, neural pathways built through repetition, emotion, and environment. Each habit creates a loop, a cue, a behavior, and a reward. Over time, these loops become automatic. They no longer require conscious thought. They shape your mood, your decisions, your identity, your confidence, and your future without you realizing it. The wealthy understand this. They design habits that reinforce success. They architect routines that sustain momentum. They eliminate behaviors that sabotage their potential. They know that a habit repeated daily becomes a lifestyle, and a lifestyle sustained consistently becomes a destiny. Look at the patterns of high achievers. Warren Buffett reads obsessively because he knows knowledge compounds. Oprah practices gratitude because she understands that abundance expands with appreciation. Jeff Bezos prioritizes sleep because he recognizes that a rested brain makes better decisions. Elon Musk works in focused time blocks because he knows multitasking destroys creativity. None of these behaviors happen by accident. They were chosen, repeated, refined, and protected until they became part of the person's identity. The habit rewiring matrix begins with one core realization. Your habits are not simply what you do, they are who you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone capable, resilient, disciplined, and worthy of success, your habits will reflect that identity. If you see yourself as someone inconsistent, overwhelmed, or easily discouraged, your habits will reflect that as well. Behavior follows belief. And this is why shifting your habits reshapes your identity just as powerfully as shifting your identity reshapes your habits. They influence each other in a self-reinforcing loop. Imagine waking up tomorrow knowing that every small action you take is a vote for the person you are becoming. When you choose to work on your dream instead of scrolling, that's a vote. When you choose to read instead of complain, that's a vote. When you choose to take a small step forward instead of waiting for the perfect moment, that's a vote. Each vote strengthens the identity of someone who succeeds, and the stronger that identity becomes, the more natural those habits feel. Eventually, they require no effort at all. They become part of you. The most powerful aspect of habit rewiring is found in neuroplasticity. When you repeat a behavior, even a very small one, your brain begins to strengthen the neural pathway associated with that action. It wants to make the behavior easier for you to repeat, because your brain's primary goal is efficiency. This means your brain is constantly adjusting itself to match your habits. If your habits are disorganized, your brain becomes disorganized. If your habits are aligned, your brain becomes aligned. If your habits match your future self, your brain becomes the architect of that future. Companies understand the power of habit shaping at the organizational level as well. Amazon's culture is built on consistent principles, like customer obsession and bias for action. These are habits scaled across an entire company. Google encourages curiosity and experimentation, organizational habits that lead to innovation. Apple cultivates simplicity and attention to detail, habits that define its brand and products. When a company shapes its habits intentionally, it shapes its identity globally. And when a person shapes their habits intentionally, they shape their destiny personally. But here's the part most people overlook. Habits do not need to be huge to be transformative. In fact, the smaller the habit, the faster the brain adapts. Tiny changes, repeated consistently, compound into massive results. A 5-minute morning ritual can shift your entire emotional landscape. 10 minutes of focused work can open the door to deep flow. One small act of courage each day can build unstoppable confidence. The habit rewiring matrix works because it understands that the brain responds more strongly to frequency than intensity. What you do repeatedly carries far more weight than what you do occasionally. Imagine your life 6 months from now if every day you implemented even one small habit that aligned with the successful version of yourself. Imagine the compound effect of consistent reading, focused work, gratitude, visualization, intentional rest, financial discipline, and emotional regulation. Imagine how those habits would shape your identity, strengthen your confidence, refine your thinking, and elevate your results. Your future would not just improve, it would transform. And there is something deeply spiritual about habit rewiring as well. It is a way of telling the universe, I am ready, I am willing, I am committed. Habits are a physical expression of your inner transformation. They show that you are not waiting for success, you are preparing for it. You are making space for it. You are aligning yourself with it. You are embodying the mindset, discipline, and consistency of someone who deserves abundance. The universe responds to alignment, and habits are alignment in motion. The habit rewiring matrix helps you break free from the old patterns that kept you stuck. It teaches your brain new rhythms, new expectations, new standards. It transforms daily behavior into a catalyst for greatness. And when your habits align with the future you envision, nothing can stop you, because every day becomes a step toward that future. Every action becomes a brick in the foundation of your success, and every moment becomes an opportunity to reinforce the identity of a high achiever. When you master your habits, you master your life. You stop waiting for transformation and begin living it. You stop hoping for success and begin creating it. You stop repeating the past and start constructing the future. Habits are not just routines. They are the blueprint for your destiny. And once you rewire them intentionally, you become unstoppable. Topic 9. The Quantum Decision Framework, making high-impact choices that rewire your future instantly. Every moment of your life is shaped by decisions. Some are small, almost invisible. Others feel enormous, life-changing, impossible to ignore. But the truth is that all decisions, big or small, have one thing in common. They create ripple effects that extend far beyond the moment in which they're made. A single choice can redirect the course of your career, reshape your financial reality, redefine your relationships, or alter the trajectory of your personal evolution. And yet, most people make decisions with a mind clouded by fear, doubt, overthinking, and subconscious conditioning. They choose based on past limitations rather than future possibilities. They seek safety instead of expansion. They follow familiar patterns instead of extraordinary ones. They choose what feels comfortable rather than what feels aligned. This is why success often looks magical from the outside. Successful people do not have better luck. They have better decision-making frameworks. They think differently when faced with uncertainty. They evaluate risks and opportunities from a perspective of abundance rather than scarcity. They don't let fear dictate their future. They don't shrink when life demands expansion. They understand that their decisions are powerful enough to rearrange the structure of their reality. The quantum decision framework is built on this truth. A decision is not just an action, it is a frequency. It sends a signal to your subconscious mind, your neural pathways, your emotional field, and even the opportunities that you attract. When you make a decision aligned with your highest self, your future begins reorganizing itself around that choice. When you make a decision rooted in fear, your future constricts to the size of that fear. You can feel this difference. You can sense when a decision expands you, even if it scares you. You can sense when a decision contracts you, even if it feels temporarily safe. Expansion leads to growth, abundance, and transformation. Contraction leads to stagnation, regret, and missed potential. Think of Jeff Bezos when he decided to leave his stable job to build Amazon. Logic said no, safety said no, his colleagues said no. But his higher self whispered, "If I don't try this, will I regret it?" That single question, known as his regret minimization framework, reshaped the entire world economy. Elon Musk's decisions to build Tesla and SpaceX looked irrational to most. Financially risky, technologically impossible, socially criticized. But he made quantum decisions, not safe ones. He decided from vision, not fear. Oprah Winfrey left behind familiar environments, limited opportunities, and external expectations because she made decisions from the identity she was growing into, not the one she was born into. These are quantum choices, decisions that alter destiny because they originate from the future self rather than the past self. Neuroscience supports this idea in a profound way. When you make a powerful decision, your brain immediately begins rewiring itself to support that choice. Neural circuits shift, dopamine rises, your attention sharpens, your motivation increases, you become more resilient, more aware, more committed. The brain interprets big decisions as signals of identity transformation. If you choose expansion, your brain expands. If you choose contraction, your brain contracts. Decisions literally sculpt the neural architecture that shapes your future behavior and results. The quantum decision framework helps you bypass the noise of doubt and tap directly into the wisdom of your future self. Instead of asking, "What feels safe today?" you ask, "What aligns with who I am becoming?" Instead of asking, "What will keep me comfortable?" you ask, "What will move me toward my highest potential?" Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you ask, "What if this is the decision that changes everything?" These shifts in perspective activate different neural pathways. They expand your thinking, deepen your courage, and elevate your emotional intelligence. You stop making decisions from survival mode and begin making them from creation mode. Imagine standing at a crossroads in your life, a business opportunity, a relationship choice, a financial decision, a personal transformation. One path is familiar, predictable, and safe. The other is uncertain, exciting, and aligned with the life you truly want. Most people choose the familiar path because their subconscious mind is addicted to the illusion of security. But every successful person you admire chose the uncertain path at least once. They stepped into the unknown, trusting that their decision would become a catalyst for growth. And because they made that leap, life opened doors for them that would have remained closed forever if they had hesitated. Quantum decisions are not reckless, they are intentional. They come from clarity, not impulsiveness. They are backed by intuition, supported by logic, and amplified by courage. When you make a quantum decision, you are telling your brain, "This is the new direction," and your brain responds by reorganizing its internal systems to support that direction. Your confidence grows, your creativity strengthens, your resilience intensifies. You begin noticing opportunities, ideas, and solutions that didn't exist before because your decision shifted your perception. Companies operate on this principle as well. When Apple decided to eliminate buttons and create the iPhone, it was a quantum leap. When Netflix decided to shift from DVDs to streaming, another quantum decision that reshaped an entire industry. When SpaceX decided to land rockets upright instead of discarding them, it changed aerospace forever. These decisions were not small. They were not incremental. They were not logical in the conventional sense. They were identity statements, declarations of what the company intended to become, and the world adjusted to those decisions. Now, imagine applying the quantum decision framework to your own life. Imagine making decisions not from fear, but from vision. Imagine choosing based on your highest potential instead of your current limitations. Imagine trusting your intuition even when the path is unclear. Imagine recognizing that every decision is a projection of your identity and choosing from the version of you who already succeeded. Imagine feeling the power that comes from realizing that your destiny is not written by circumstance. It is written by choice. The moment you begin making quantum decisions, your life accelerates. You experience breakthroughs that feel sudden, but were actually created the moment you chose differently. Your relationships evolve, your career advances, your income increases, your sense of purpose deepens, your self-worth expands. You feel aligned, powerful, intentional. You no longer drift, you direct. You no longer fear the unknown, you shape it. This is the quantum decision framework. The recognition that every choice you make sends a ripple into the future, and when you choose from your highest self, the ripple becomes a wave strong enough to redesign your entire life. Once you learn to make decisions this way, you stop being the passenger of your story and become the author of it. You step into full creative power. You step into alignment. You step into the destiny that has been waiting for you all along. Topic 10. The Mind Becoming. Your final awakening into a life of purpose, power, and prosperity. There is a moment in every transformation when something irreversible happens inside a person. A moment when the mind stops being a battlefield and becomes an instrument, a tool, a compass pointing toward a greater future. It doesn't arrive with noise or chaos, and it doesn't need validation or applause. It emerges quietly, often in the space between thoughts, when you suddenly realize that the version of you who once struggled to believe, to begin, to stay consistent, to feel worthy, no longer exists in the same way. You crossed an invisible threshold. You became someone new. This is the moment of the mind becoming. The moment when everything you've learned in this journey fuses into a single truth. You are not chasing success. You are becoming the kind of mind that creates success naturally, predictably, consistently. The techniques in this training were never just strategies. They were scaffolding holding up the architecture of your future identity. And piece by piece, you've been reconstructing your internal world until the person looking back at you, in thought, in action, in intention, in clarity, is the person you dreamed of becoming. Think of what has happened within you throughout this process. Your focus sharpened, your beliefs loosened their grip and reshaped themselves. Your emotions transformed from obstacles into power sources. Your habits shifted from draining patterns into aligned behaviors. Your decisions evolved from reactive to intentional. Your self-image expanded from limitation to possibility. You did not simply learn these principles, you internalized them. You expanded into them. You began thinking with the brain of someone who knows where they're going, not someone who's afraid of where they've been. This is the same inner shift that every great visionary, leader, and creator has experienced. Oprah did not become Oprah the day her show went national. She became Oprah the moment she realized her voice, her presence, her vision had value far beyond the environment she came from. Elon Musk didn't become a titan of innovation the day SpaceX landed a rocket upright. He became that person the moment he decided to trust a mind that saw the impossible as negotiable. Jeff Bezos didn't become a billionaire the day Amazon became profitable. He became that person the moment he allowed himself to think decades ahead while others thought days ahead. Their external success came later. The inner success came first, always. And here is the most profound realization. Your inner shift has already begun. You can feel it. Something in you is more awake now, more aware, more intentional. Your thoughts are not the same thoughts you had before. Your vision feels closer. Your self-talk feels stronger. Your limitations feel thinner. Your decisions feel weightier because they're being made from a higher part of your consciousness. You're starting to think like someone who has stepped out of the old narrative and into a new one. This is not a temporary burst of motivation. It is the sign of a neurological and spiritual evolution. Your brain has been rewiring itself with every visualization, every reframed emotion, every focused moment, every identity expansion, every small habit anchored with intention. The architecture of your mind is changing, new neural pathways strengthening the future, old ones dissolving the past. You are beginning to live, think, feel, and decide from the identity you once believed was ahead of you. But the truth is, that identity was always accessible. It simply needed activation. The mind becoming is the moment you stop waiting for evidence and start creating it. It is the moment you stop asking, "Can I really become that person?" and start affirming, "I am already becoming them." It is the moment you understand that your future self is not a distant dream. It is a version of you that your mind is preparing for every single day. When you think differently, your world shifts. When you choose differently, your options multiply. When you step into alignment, life begins to mirror that alignment back to you. Imagine 6 months from now. Imagine a year. Imagine looking back and realizing that this exact moment, this conclusion, was the turning point. The moment your life split into a before and after. The moment you stopped negotiating with fear and started negotiating with destiny. The moment you stopped trying to fit into your past and started growing into your future. The moment your mind, your body, your energy, your identity finally said, "I'm ready." Your relationships shift because you show up differently. Your finances shift because you make decisions differently. Your opportunities shift because you recognize them differently. Your habits shift because you value yourself differently. Your entire frequency shifts because you think differently. And as your internal world elevates, the external world rearranges itself to match your rise. The mind becoming is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of your most powerful chapter. You have become someone who understands how to command your mind, how to redirect your emotional energy, how to choose with intention, how to cultivate clarity, how to amplify momentum, how to embody abundance. You are no longer the seeker. You are the creator. You are no longer waiting. You are becoming. You are no longer hoping. You are aligning. You are no longer fantasizing. You are constructing. From this moment forward, you carry a new awareness. Success is not a destination. Prosperity is not a reward. Abundance is not an accident. They are reflections of a trained mind, a mind you now possess, a mind that will continue evolving, sharpening, expanding, and reshaping your reality as long as you honor the identity emerging within you. This is your awakening. This is your becoming. This is the moment your old life releases you and your new life welcomes you. And from here on, nothing will ever be the same, because you are not the same. If this video ignited something inside you, if you felt even for a moment that shift, that awakening, that spark of the mind you are becoming, then don't let it fade. Hold on to it, grow it, step into it fully. And the best way to stay connected to this transformation is to become part of this community, a community of minds committed to success, abundance, wealth, and the highest version of themselves. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is your training ground, your mental gym, your weekly reminder that you are built for greatness. Like this video if it spoke to you, if it moved you, if it opened something inside your consciousness that you didn't even realize was waiting. And comment below with one insight that hit you the hardest. I read every comment, and your reflection might be exactly what someone else needs to step into their own transformation. Finally, share this video with someone you care about, someone whose potential you can feel, someone who deserves to rise with you. When you share growth, you amplify it. Your new mind has already begun forming. Now let's continue building it together. I'll see you in the next video, my friend. And remember, the future is already yours. You're simply stepping into it.